Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sage and Stone Tarot. My name is Jennifer, and as I introduced before, I want to introduce to you Rob and Angie from TwinFinity, and they've been so kind to allow me to interview them. And so I just wanted to introduce them and for them to say a quick hello as well.
Hi,
Hi.
we're up by our regular fireplace spot.
I asked them to be interviewed because, as a twin flame myself, um, I'm being called deeper into my mission. And part of that mission is to pretty much bring out into the open the big elephant in the room that I've noticed that a lot of people don't really want to talk about because of its sensitive nature. And that is about karmic partners, karmic relationships, karmic marriages, and the twin flame journey is from and because I myself have been in the same situation and I am in that situation. So my whole point in this interview is to bring out a better understanding of exactly what a karmic relationship truly is, the healing that is involved when those are on a twin flame journey and one or both of twins are in a karmic relationship or partnership. And I do know that a karmic situation can be alcohol or some kind of addiction, but I'm focusing on the relationship part because just from being on this twin flame journey for 2 years, I stepped onto this journey November 11th, 2017. That is very common. It's very common. There's a commonality. I've also learned that everybody's journey is also very unique unto their, between their twins, but there's a lot of similarities. And so that is where I reached out to you because I discovered you guys, I want to say the summertime, I guess, around the summertime of 2018. But now before coming on here, I went back to video one because I didn't know about the two of you, your background, your individual backgrounds as well. So that really allowed me to see even more and understand a lot more. And see, before I did that, my first question was, what events took place that brought the two of you back together? And then as I'm going through it, I'm like, wow, there isn't just one because it was a stop and start and stop and start. So and I'm going to put a link in the description box below for those who want, because you have a playlist and it has all of your journey to union videos. But given that, because it sounded very familiar as far as my situation with my twin is the stop and start, not as much as the two of you though.
Yeah, we stopped and started many times.
Yeah, because, without getting into my own, there was a period where in 2000, there was a 13 and a half year separation where there was zero, very, very spotty communication. And then the next time we reconnected was November 11th, 2017. And literally 72 hours, I was bombarded with all of the synchronicities, the numbers, all of that stuff. So taking that question, given that it was a stop and start, when the two of you reconnected and the both of you were in Karmic too, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, and I don't mean to, this is meant with all due respect, but the one thing that I remember, Angie, about who you were with, I just remember narcissists. I don't know the number or the name. So at what point did the two of you reconnect at that point was it always during that time period of the stop and start, or was there one moment where you guys were apart for a while and then when you reconnected, you both found out that you each were in these relationships?
Well, I think Angie knew that I was in my relationship all the way along. Well, of course, when we were totally out of communication for about 3 to 3.5 years, you never know. But it takes very little time when you get back in touch with just a hello it takes very little time to understand where a person's really at. So I think Angie picked up in a hurry that I was still where I was at when she had last checked in with me years ago. But the reconnection for me took a little bit of time to actually, well, a little to allow. I was a little bit guarded because what had pushed Angie and I apart in the past, I was still very aware of, still keenly concerned about. So it took a little bit of time, a little bit of prodding to find out where Angie's headspace was. So a few little communications along the way allowed me to understand that she was very different than what she had been many, many years ago, although still the same, but different in a way that felt a lot more compatible, a lot more like home.
Balanced. Balanced.
Yes.
Balanced.
Yes. Yes. And before I even go, oh, did you want to answer that?
I can't even quite remember what the question was, but I'll just say also, like, what helped reconnect us was Rob was out of work. And so he was then able to be more balanced because his job is very intense, requires him to be very 3D, very deep into his head. And so he was between jobs and had time. So he contacted me for my birthday. We went out for a birthday lunch, and then we went out a week later for another lunch. And it was like a switch had flipped back on inside of me that took me years to shut off. And it was like all of a sudden I'm like, what's changed? Why have I been able to see you other times and, have a lunch with you and then carry on with my life? Now he was so deep in my head, my heart, my soul all over again. It was like I didn't know what the heck was going on.
It's funny you should say switch, because in the 13-and-a-half-year separation, there was no social media. There, at one point, there was MySpace, which I was on MySpace, but we didn't connect. We literally only connected. I have more fingers on one hand how many we connected through email. And the reason he would always reach out to me. I wasn't the one that would reach out. I would get the email. We'd be emailing, and something inside me, like you described, I'm like, nope, I'm not opening that box. I know what is in that box, and I'm not opening that box. Yeah. But I didn't know about twin flames back then. I just knew that there was a box, like Pandora's box. I'm not opening that box. Before I go any further, and I should have done this for the first question, what in your experience as twins on this journey, what is a karmic relationship, whether it's a marriage or a long-term committed relationship? What have you learned it to be?
For me, and for what I've seen with other people too, a karmic relationship is generally a relationship with a soul that's part of your soul group. And it's meant to take you from one point of where you're at and either trigger you or move you or advance you. In some cases, stop, but stopping isn't really part of the journey. There's always lots of places to go. It's meant to help move you into another phase. So a karmic relationship is almost like a shuttle to a new portion of your life.
Oh, I like that.
I like that.
He always comes up with the most brilliant analogies.
Yes, yes, because I actually quoted you, and I'm going to let Angie finish because it goes in line with what you just said.
Cool. Yeah, I would agree. Very similar with Rob. It's like some people define things as soulmate, karmic partner, and twin flame. And if we want to define it that way, a soulmate, there isn't a whole lot of growth necessarily that happens. It's a nice, easy, flowing, comfortable relationship. Whereas a karmic relationship, it's very growthful. It's, at least for me, oh my goodness, it was the hardest 6 years I've ever had in a relationship, even though mine was only 6 years. It wasn't, like Rob's was 12 years. But it's a constant triggering, a constant forcing you to look at your wounds and deal with, exactly like the term says, your karma, right? So clearing, and not just with the person, there's with other family members around that person. Like with my karmic partner, I also had to heal stuff around his son, who I discovered was my mom in a previous life. So we had karma to clear.
Wow.
So yeah, it's just amazing how it's all connected, and there's karma to clear with these people. So
Yeah.
trigger
Yeah.
big things.
Yeah.
Trigger
My,
and karma.
what?
Triggers and karma, it seems to be.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yes. See, you know, I'm not shy about saying I will be 50 in May 2020. I have been married and divorced 3 times. My second was 15 years, and it was very similar as yours, Angie. There was a lot of stuff when you were sharing. It brought up a lot of like memories. I'm like, oh my God, I remember, and it was by far. But now I can honestly say, beyond a shadow of a doubt, I've loved all 3 of them, and I
Yeah.
thank them. Even because there was a lot of abuse.
Yeah.
There was a lot of abuse, and it doesn't condone that, but I also thank them for the gifts and the lessons, because I wouldn't be the person that I am today if it wasn't for, not that I would like now, I mean, if I had a choice, obviously consciously would not choose that, but I'm aware that this is what we chose.
Totally.
Our soul had chosen that.
Yes. And that's, I think, such an important key, because so many people come out of relationships like that and think, oh, I was a victim to abuse. And it's like, no, you chose that. I mean, I remember agreeing with my karmic partner, who I cannot wait to go back to spirit and give him the biggest soul hug and say thank you. Because I know he is one of my deepest, closest soul friends who agreed to play the bad guy to help me grow in the most biggest, strongest, powerful ways that I could. And he was one of the catalysts to help me come into reunion with Rob. I mean, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be in union.
And the same with my karmic slash karmics. Uh, they made me who I am. They introduced me to some of the things that I now understand that I didn't understand before. And it just opened up so many gateways and avenues and possibilities that Angie became a possibility again. I had to learn from them and learn with them to allow me to come full circle to understand where Angie was so that she could come back into my life when the time became right. And of course, you never know that.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. It reminds me, because this was from your Journey to Union video, number 22. And I actually had to stop and start, because when you're talking about this and reconnecting, and you realize that Angie was more balanced, because I really wanted to, you said something that kind of struck me, and I call it collision course.
Okay.
And this was your quote. I hope I wrote it down. When we met, we were on a similar place within our heads and in our learnings, but that didn't change the course. After a while, we crossed paths, so we could go apart again. We're both still going in the same direction as when we met, but the same direction was now taking us further apart.
Mm-hmm.
So that when you were talking about that and all of these, the karmics and all of that, I don't know, that I have this, when I heard you say that, that's what I thought about when I was listening to you say that on the video, because like one of my closest soul family is I was 18, 17 going on 18 when I got married the first time.
Oh.
And that's my oldest father. It's a long story, but I hadn't seen or spoke to him in 23 years. There's reasons for that. I'll share later in another video. But in November 2018, right before Thanksgiving, I got a phone call from a detective. He was an addict and an alcoholic, and a very abusive person. And but the thing is that this detective, before that, I had 2 dreams of this person that I hadn't seen nor spoke to, had no contact at all whatsoever. So when I woke up, I was really like, what is going on? First time was July 2018. So I was alerted, it's time to forgive. It's time for forgiveness. And I worked those things out. 2 weeks before, actually November 16th, which is Hecate's evening too. Marla Kelly talks about that. So that's weird that way I just made the connection. But anyway, I got another dream with him. And when I woke up, and I'm like, okay, universe, what do you want from me? I did all my forgiveness. Why? Why is he coming? And it was, both dreams were so loving and so kind that it kind of took me back, because that isn't the person. What I found, then I got, a couple of days later, I found out that he had died.
Wow.
Okay.
He came to me.
Yeah.
He was asking for forgiveness, but it was more than that. And that alone, the reason why I'm bringing this up with what I asked you, is that to me was a catalyst on learning to forgive and understand karmic relationships in a way that I haven't, because this isn't in my 3D world. This is a being, a spirit, angel, guardian angel, whoever he is to me, but he's with me a lot.
Yeah.
So, I'm very, it's very hard when we're dealing with the 3D. And I wanted to know, okay, so going further, it says I'm going further. This is the question that I asked. So after the bliss of reconnection, what you just shared with me about, the lunches, like you had that switch that turned on.
Yeah.
And that smoke had kind of finally cleared, because you know how that feels, from each one of your perspectives, how did you feel about each of you being involved with each other's partner? Like, obviously you knew that he was still with karmic number 2, but what I'm trying to get at is feelings. I mean, now like there's this connection, and now the switch has been turned on, and now there's these other 2 people in the mix as well. So from each of you, how did that make you feel?
I want to answer this first,
Okay.
because so when the switch was turned back on for me, I didn't even understand it at first, and it took a couple months before I found the term twin flames and started to study and learn and all of that. But I still didn't think we would be together. So I didn't have any sort of jealousy towards, his partner, or think, oh, I wish I was her and I wish I could be with him. I didn't really have any of that, because I had accepted our lives had moved on in different ways. Further, once I started really evolving into the twin flame stuff, and he was talking to me telepathically, and I was getting, also his karmic partner would come to me in meditation as well. And one time she actually handed him to me, symbolically, as a baby wrapped in white. So it was like she was saying, it's now your turn to be with him. I've prepared him for you, and here he is, all fresh and clean and new, like a baby. It was the most beautiful experience. Yeah, it was really powerful. And so when I was doing so much work in my meditations to bring us back together, because I was guided to, I would see his karmic partner, my karmic partner, him and me, all 4 of us, almost like on a football field, like huddled together, working as a team. So many people think, oh, my karmic partner or my twin flames karmic partner, they're holding us from each other. And if it wasn't for them, we'd be together. And it's like, no, you're all on the same team. You're all working together. So that's how I always saw it. So there was never any jealousy or insecurity or resentment towards her. I was always deeply grateful, and still am. Like, I don't know how many times we often will say, God, I'm so grateful for your karmic partner.
Wow.
Yeah, I as I say, I cannot wait to go back to spirit, because we don't have a great relationship with either of them in like 3D world right now. But in spirit, I know they're our deepest friends. And I know that when we go back home, we'll be laughing and going, wasn't that a fun ride? Do you remember when I did that to you? And remember how that helped you heal and grow? And I mean, I so know that will happen.
And from my point of view, I was I had started to understand very quickly as Angie and I were becoming friends, because as we were getting back in touch, as Angie was saying, we were expecting to get back together. So I was just shooting for a friendship, but I was starting to understand that the karmic relationship that I was in had helped me so much in understanding where Angie was. And so I transferred the respect that I had for my karmic relationship over to Angie's partner as well, hoping that the relationship that Angie and him had was also helping Angie grow in a direction that would allow us to be friends again. So it was a blind leap of blind faith, and it turned out to be a very good leap that I actually totally appreciated his existence. We went for a small mountain climb, Prairie Mountain. Angie, her karmic, and myself, we went climbing a mountain one day long before Angie and I, of course, were even thinking getting back together. We were just working on friendship. The three of us went and climbed a small mountain, and I had a chance to be with him for many hours that day. And I really enjoyed that. Enjoyed seeing who Angie was learning from. It was great. It was really, really fun.
That's fascinating. That's like, that's fascinating because unfortunately, like for example, social media, that I don't hear anything like that. It's very hateful and painful, and and I know that people are in a lot of pain when it comes to things like this. So it's really helpful to see and hear a perspective that is far different, which is much more healing, and not that they are the enemy.
Exactly. I was just going to say, when you can know that they're not the enemy, they're working on the same team as you. It doesn't look like that in 3D because that's their job, is to help trigger you, to help you heal. But they are helping.
Now, we talk about all being on the same team, but that day that we went climbing together, the three of us, it was actually supposed to be four of us. My karmic partner was supposed to be along as well. But my karmic partner had already picked up vibes. She's very, very intuitive. That's why she was such a great teacher for me. She was very intuitive, and she felt something about Angie that really, really triggered her. And she was so nervous and upset about potentially going for a hike as the four of us, that the morning of the hike, she woke up, she was nearly physically ill. She could not go on that climb, but she still said, yeah, okay, you go ahead, but I can't go. She could not be on the same climb with Angie. She felt something.
There's something, and I'm sure men have this too, but women, what you just said, see, I met my twin in November of 1999, and we were both married, okay, and we worked together, and where we worked, they put out a Christmas party, and so the four of us, now this was prior, now mind you, I was a float teller, and so this branch had become worked at a bank, and so this branch became my home branch. And so I immediately, we knew there wasn't anything said, but there was something felt, but we just didn't say anything initially. But we went to this Christmas party, and my husband at the time and his karmic wife at the time, sometimes I even feel bad saying that word, because that's a word that's also being vilified, and I see that all the time. It's illegal. So his partner, we all sat at the same table, like we all, because I worked, he worked, we just had our partners with, and it seemed fine. fast forward to 2017 when we reconnected and we were like, catching up and talking about 13 and a half years. Shares a story that he wouldn't hear the end of it the entire drive home because she felt something, and it was something that wasn't even spoken about between my twin and I. We didn't even know that, but she picked up on it.
Yep.
So that's wow.
And this is why I feel that karmic relationships are with members of a soul group that have traveled together life after life, not every life, but numerous lives together, is because those connections, those ability to feel those vibes, that just doesn't come from pure strangers. That's because they have felt that before from other relationships. It's an intuition that I believe that can be felt from lifetime to lifetime.
That's interesting. Yeah. I never thought of it that way. Because, yeah, because it's not just mothers. Of course, I'm a mom, and I can tell without talking to my children who are now adults, young adults. I just know. I know. But between the two kids, based on what you had said, my oldest, who's 29, I really honestly believe that we've been in past lives together. I love my kids equally across the board, but the kind of bond that I have with my oldest is far different.
You might have to go get
Is
it.
that your dog?
That's our dog. And you know what's really funny?
She caught her squeaky
We
toy.
purposely hide her squeaky toy when we do a video, and that's why my face went. I'm like, how did she find that? She's probably got 15 toys strewn all over the place, and she has to find the squeaky toy every time we do a video. It's so funny.
Now I've just hid the squeaky toy. Now we're going to be trouble.
I put it up higher so she wouldn't get it. That's so funny. Sorry to distract you, but I was just
No,
like,
that's okay. I love it. I think it's hilarious. I think it's
well, Cookie ends up in most of our videos at some point because she does crazy antics like this. So
she's adorable. I used to be a groomer. I was a dog groomer for 5 years, so I absolutely adore doggies. Yeah. Well, this is good.
So I'm saying, like, back to karmics. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no. Well, going from what you just shared, at what point did the two of you know that you wanted to come back together? And at that, if there was a point, and how did that make each of you feel because of your partners?
I'm gonna let you answer that first.
I'm gonna go first because
I know my answer, but I don't know yours.
Well, you kind of do. You kind of do. We've talked about this. We've alluded to this. My karmic relationship lasted for 12 years, but I had felt that at about year 8 or year 9, I had really felt that relationship had exhausted its opportunities. And as much as we were still getting along, we'd go on vacations together and have a great time. And the relationship was okay, with a couple of rocky spots in it, I have to admit, but nothing that nobody else ever has happened. So it was I was feeling like the relationship was winding down, but I had no idea when or how it would end. So as we were starting to get closer back together and in contact, I got a feeling that there would be another chance for Angie and I to try again. But of course, spirit being spirit wasn't giving any hints as to when that would be. But it eventually came to a point where knowing that we wanted to at least be in closer contact and possibly try again, when that became an option for some time in the future, it still didn't actually drive a nail in the coffin of the relationship I was in. The relationship I was in still had to come to its own end. So I wasn't in a hurry just to try to switch from one to another. I had to wait for a right moment, and a right moment took a fair bit of time, not long, like just a matter of just a few months, but it took a fair bit of time for that to come along, that opportunity. But the opportunity didn't come from my relationship. It came from hers. Your turn.
In what way?
As in, your relationship started to break down much faster than we thought.
Oh, well, actually, mine was already breaking down before Rob and I before I knew anything about twin flames. My partner and I had already, trying to think, almost a year prior, had split up, written a separation agreement, and agreed we were going our separate ways, and then decided to do counseling and tried to make it work. So we were already on rocky terms before twin flames even entered my world, I'm glad for that, because so many people are like, oh no, you left your partner for your twin flame. I'm like, no, my partner and I were already falling apart long before.
Just in the same as mine was too.
Yeah.
The relationship was winding down. It just didn't have a termination date on it.
Yeah.
Right. I'm glad that you said that, because when I met my twin, this was before I even knew about twin flames. I didn't know about that in '99. My second marriage was 15 years, um, and a year before I met my twin, I was already in counseling, and my marriage was breaking apart at the seams, and I didn't even know, like, I was also discovering, and I was explained what verbal abuse is and all of that kind of stuff. I didn't know any of that stuff. And my twin and I, we had a connection for 3.5 years before I literally, like, moved out of state and all that other stuff. Going on what you said, I'm glad you said that, because it wasn't the human person, my twin himself, the actual human being. He didn't say anything or do anything. The connection that is shared, which I didn't understand then, but I understand now, is what gave me the strength to finally stand up for myself,
Yeah.
file for divorce, and leave. And then fast forward, my most recent, we were together 12 years. And it wasn't like it was completely different than the other two. It was, well, now that I understand more, it was convenience. It was safe. That was fine. But when we reconnected again, and then I started to understand and read about twin flames, it's not my twin. It forced me to tell the truth. So I had to sit and really think about, because I had already started feeling 7 years into the 12 years. And then from that point on until, again, I'm like, oh my God, and then I felt bad, because there was no abuse. There wasn't no, like, one thing, like what people would normally leave for. It's because I genuinely and honestly, we were like roommates. We were friends. So I'm really happy that you shared it in that way, because it's not the actual person. The person doesn't make you do anything. It's this connection. It's energy. It's your vibration rises, and it's hard for me to sometimes describe into words, but I just know that it was my truth. I had to tell the truth.
Yeah.
And the same with me. What you've just talked about here the past couple of minutes is very much how I felt in my relationship as well. I eventually had to have a good hard look at what was going on in my life, and how I was feeling and how I was growing, and understand that it just was not going to be sustainable. It was just on the edge of going to a direction that was going to stop growth. It had done everything that it could possibly do. And I didn't hate the relationship. I quite enjoyed the relationship. There was many comfortable things that were
Yes.
in that relationship, but it wasn't what I needed. It wasn't what it would take for me to continue to grow as a person. Not that I craved growth, but I definitely didn't crave stagnation.
Right.
So, and the thing is when Angie and I were getting back into communicating with each other, with all the respect that I had for what Angie and I had the first time, I then started to really put together the pieces of why Angie needed to be back in my life. Still, just as a friend, because I didn't know any better at that time.
Right.
No.
I felt that handoff that Angie had with me being handed to her in baby form. I felt that in my own self, that I was being handed back, not necessarily in a close, intimate relationship, but being handed back spiritually, as far as that growth was concerned, back to Angie. I felt that connection.
I see. I love hearing and I know when I say divine masculine, it's not gender specific, but to hear the divine masculine perspective, because there isn't a lot of divine masculine, whether they're male or female, that really, there's not a lot of them out there. So I'm always so fascinated, and it's helpful and it's healing to hear from a divine masculine perspective. So I really appreciate you sharing with everyone.
Well,
And on that note, I just want to say our viewers have been asking us for a video of the divine masculine, and we're so trying to do that. We actually were just in the mountains this past weekend, and we were going to do that, but it was just too cold to like stand still. So eventually Rob is going to do his own video and like share more of the masculine perspective.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, and I also, one of the things, and I'm working on, it's not going to be for a while, but because we each possess both the divine masculine and the divine feminine energy, because one of the things that this journey has taught me is understanding and pointing out when I'm operating from my masculine energy or when I'm operating from my feminine energy, and how that played out in my karmic relationships. And I didn't realize until I discovered twin flames that it was my divine masculine that caused me to run, and it's my divine masculine that causes me to want to shut down, shut off, run, hide.
Yep.
So yeah, so that's coming in the future. It's just gathering enough like information for myself as well as other people who are willing to share all that stuff, because that truly is the twin flame journey, is coming home to oneself.
Yes.
Chemical marriage is the marriage of the masculine and feminine energies within, and when we, if you want to connect to your twin, go within.
yeah.
I have that like in my head now all the time, and I'll be honest, initially when I first started listening to your videos and I would hear that, I'm like, oh my God, again? Because it would remind me when I was in counseling, the one word, if I could throw a word out, is the word process. It's a process.
Oh, yes.
Process. So it reminded me of that, but it's so true. And when I've gone within, I get the answers all the time. So
that's such an important thing that you said, because so many people, until you really, really can grasp what a twin flame is, you see the other person as somebody separate from you, but they're not separate. And I mean, I still process this some days. Some days it just blows me over and I'm like, we're the same soul. Like, wow, that's so profound. There's days too that we're deeply 3D in our jobs and stuff, and you come home and you do the normal human things. And then there's other days where you're just like, you're me, I'm you, holy crap. So it is about going within, right? To know that they're inside of you. They're not somebody outside of you like we see. That's just our 3D human eyes. But really, he's inside me, I'm inside him, because we are the same soul.
I have to remind myself, and especially, I listened to Marla Kelly's the video about the winter solstice.
Yes.
Energy, and it was such a relief, because I'm like, oh, that is, because the energies for me, all of a sudden, it's like, what? I was feeling bliss, and now I feel like I've been like dumped into the like bowels of hell the last few days. And it has everything to do with that, because separation, the only way I can describe it, when that it's because it's me. I'm feeling separate from him because it's something that's going on with me.
Yeah.
It's either a wound or I'm triggered, and it's me. That is when I'm acutely aware of feeling separate, you know. And then what happens is that he gets insecure and thinks that I'm leaving, I'm running again, or you know. So it's this cycle then, and it's like, so I felt for a long time, because I was the runner for so many years, that it is my part. And then when I say job, I don't mean that in an unhealthy way, is to reassure I'm not going anywhere.
Right.
I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. I'm here. And it's really learning how to voice and tell the truth. Think, this is what I'm feeling. I'm going to need a couple of days to get
Yeah.
down to myself. Otherwise, I'm going to end up projecting stuff onto you that I don't want to. Because when I have, it feels like I'm piercing my own heart, because he is me and I am him. If I hurt him, I'm hurting myself.
Right.
And that feels by far one of the worst feelings on the face of the planet.
Yeah.
I feel
Certainly is.
horrible. And I just cry for days. But I'm so thankful that you shared that, you know, that was shared in that way. And I look forward to your videos, the masculine perspective.
Yeah. I'm very excited about it too. I think it's going to be awesome.
And I have to say,
do it in the mountains, because that's Rob's home.
yes. And I love that, because like I said, I mean, although I live in Arizona now, I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, but I lived in upstate New York, in Connecticut, and Pennsylvania. So being around the mountains, and I've always said that the mountains are my home, and the ocean is like a sanctuary when I need to kind of. But the mountains, even, and I can go to the mountains here if I wanted to. And the desert has its own magic as well. But
Oh, yes, it does.
yes, it has a lot of magic in there, and I love, and I've learned to love and it's not just brown. I tell my brother that all the time. There's color here. You have to open your eyes. The flora and the fauna in the desert is beautiful if you open your eyes and pay attention. But and I only have just a couple more questions, because they're kind of loaded.
Well, I'll tell you what, I would like to back way up and make a comment to something that you said in the first couple of minutes of the start of this video. You
Sure.
talk about karmic relationships. They could be with a person, or they could be with like a substance, like let's say alcohol or whatever. I, for many, many years, had a very, very strong, very obsessive karmic relationship with exercise. But
Oh,
yes, I was even to the point where, and some people would understand this term, that I was an exercise bulimic. I would eat anything that I wanted, and then I would exercise for hours just to burn off the calories. But that's not where I was going with this. The exercise was actually just another step in my progression. I didn't learn very much from exercise other than self perseverance, because when you're challenging yourself to do things like run a marathon or climb a mountain, you have to sometimes really suck it up to get to your objective. But the exercise took me to extreme playgrounds like mountains, where I could exist comfortably, even though a lot of other people couldn't, because it would be far too stressful for them. And I was able to enjoy climbing mile-high mountains and also feel the energy at the same time, because it wasn't just about surviving to the top. I was able to have some extra energy because I was in such good shape that I could enjoy the feeling, the spirituality of the mountains. I could feel the energies of mountains. So as much as that was a phase of my life that I still actually am very much in touch with, that relationship with exercise was very much a part of the progression of me stepping towards spirituality.
oh wow, that's fascinating. Yeah. Oh wow, I've never. Yeah, I can see exercise as being, well, anything really. Anything can be spiritual. You know, it's. I used to talk about finding everyday magic. There's magic in absolutely everything that you do.
Yes.
Whether that is doing the laundry or, you know, washing dishes. It sounds mundane, but you can make the mundane very magical. Um, And so that's what I thought of when you just said that. And there's always been something, like I've always been drawn to rivers and streams and brooks, the running, the sound of, and being in a pine forest, like a pine trees, in that kind of setting. Um, there's something, and I'm a Taurus, so that might have something to do with it. I'm an earth sign, so I am very connected to the earth, but then there's the ocean or the water. It's detoxifying and cleansing in the sense that when I need to feel like I do that even in the shower. A shower can be very cleansing as well if you're not near a beach or, a waterfall. And when I was growing up, because I grew up in a very alcoholic, abusive home, and I played the flute. When I started to learn to play the flute where we lived across the street from this like bungalow colony, and this is upstate New York in Orange County, New York. And we had access, and there was lakes. So, but I discovered this trail. As I thought at the time that it was like a secret trail that nobody else but me knew about it. I'm sure other people did. But when things were too much in the house, I would grab my flute and I would go and on that trail, because what I found was this opening, this clearing, and I can see it. There's this waterfall and these boulders and this running stream, this brook. And there was one boulder. It was almost like it was made for me to sit on, and I'd play my flute or I would journal write. And for a while, that was my safe place. So I totally get that as far as mountains, and I listen to your videos. The one thing I have to say about my twin, from the very moment to now, whether we didn't know, like I said, we didn't know back in 20 years ago, he's a mountain. Like I see him as this mountain. He has been immovable. Here I am. I feel like I'm scattered all over the place and I can't get my stuff together, but he's been immovable. His feeling has never, ever, ever swayed, no matter what has happened, no matter what I've done or not done. It's a mountain. So I love the fact that when I discovered the two of you, it's mountains, and you talk about mountains, and I love the intros when you talk about where you are. So
wow, that's cool.
So so going back a little from what you were explaining, is with the question that I had asked about cheating. Okay, you'll not understand how
now we're getting to the good stuff.
cheating, and it was from one of the videos of your videos that I actually kind of picked up on, and it was video number 24, The Love That Never Dies. And there was something that was said, the 3D level versus the soul level. So talk to me a little bit about, because I know in 3D, the traditional template and paradigm, this is something that I have personally struggled with, to be honest with you, and it drove me back into counseling because that wasn't in my nature. 20 years ago, that was not in my nature. No. And it really messed me up emotionally, mentally. But and it says dealing with the feelings and emotions, knowing their twin is intimate with their karmic partner, or the two of you connecting and being like, all of that stuff can get really messy. So how did you handle that? What would you say is 3D versus soul level? Because you had mentioned, Rob, actually.
Well, you see, now there's the definitions of cheating, and I'd like to split two different types of cheating aside. There's the physical cheating. Let's call that 3D. But there's maybe even 3 different styles. Then there's what some people would call emotional cheating, where in your mind, you're completely naked, you're completely undressed, but physically you're not. Some people say that even if you're thinking it, you're cheating, even if you're not physically cheating. Now, myself, I wasn't that highly connected to the higher realms to understand emotional cheating, especially in, let's say, a fourth or fifth dimension, where you're actually bonded with a person and really desiring to be with them. And that's not necessarily physically, it's just mentally or emotionally or connectedly in 5D. So it's really, really hard to define cheating when on some levels you're absolutely not, or barely not, where on other levels you completely are. So I took anything that was emotional cheating, and on a protected level, I'm just saying it the way it was for me. I took that, I compartmentalized it, and I didn't think it, I didn't recognize it, I didn't consider it. And one of my closer friends, as I was transitioning back to Angie, point blank asked me, Rob, did you cheat on Angie? And I absolutely denied it at that time because I was still
Or
protecting
did
myself.
you cheat with me?
Or did I cheat? Sorry, with
Yeah.
Angie. And looking back at it, from an emotional point of view, absolutely I did. I totally did not answer that question from my friend correctly. And as other truths came up, I've been called out on that, and I've had to admit that I was in various forms of denial. Just because flat out 100% physical cheating didn't happen, didn't mean it wasn't a breaking away, a desiring of another relationship in my mind. So on a 3D level, you can hide a lot. On a 5D level, it's almost something that I couldn't control. It was there, and it was just became part of me, but I had to hide it from myself even.
Right, right.
Now, I just want to clarify your question. Are you more talking about like when you're with your karmic partner and you feel like you're cheating on your twin, or that you're cheating with your twin because you're in other relationships?
All of it, like it just seems that it's a very like okay, so I can kind of like what Rob was explaining, you know, 20 years ago, and I'm gonna be honest, there was physical cheating. Okay. I mean, it was a messed up situation, and I've always said that, which is what drove me back into, because that wasn't in my nature, to be like that. So yes, that. But at one point, that ended. But the emotional part, and it's just we just couldn't not stay. We couldn't just not connect.
Yeah.
We're still calling each other and wanting to see each other, but that part ended. And then I moved away. And then if you fast forward now, like when my most recent is that when we reconnected, I was still married, and I'm like, oh, I'm not going here again. I know, so I needed to, because I already knew, the box was blown open. The tornado was like around me at all times, 24/7. And so I already knew it was open. My heart literally expanded open. I wasn't like I had no control. So there was both aspects, both that. So it's just so hard, especially with both people have partners. Whether now I didn't feel like I was cheating on my twin. That I did not feel. Now the situation is that I am just me. I am on my own. I've been living
Right.
on my own. My twin is not. He's still in the same one from decades ago. And so I've been asked, people who don't know what twins are, or ask me all the time, why aren't you dating? Why aren't you dating? And initially I felt that, but to be quite honest with you, I'm going to give you my own personal answer. After being married and divorced 3 times, this is the first time in 31 years I am by myself on my own. I'm not living with family or in a relationship or with my kids even. I don't have anything to give. And what I do have to give is to myself and to this twin flame journey. And that's what I'm working on. So, but I'll be honest, I don't have any desire, so that's maybe
And I
that may.
think that's a healthy place to be, because being that you've had narcissistic relationships, you were probably very codependent, just like I was, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So once you move past that, you get to the point where you're comfortable being with yourself. So this is a very healthy place probably for you to be, is just by yourself, with yourself.
Yes. So yeah, no, but that was basically what my question was, is, did you feel guilty? Like, not at all?
No, very guilty. In fact,
Oh,
when Rob and I were first reconnecting, so I had told him we were twin flames, and then we agreed we needed to like actually meet in person and figure this out, find it like, where do we go from here? Because we didn't know, being that we're both sort of still in, well, I was sort of in a relationship. He was still
I was more
definitely in a relationship.
I was more assertive in a
Yeah.
relationship.
Mine had already broken apart. We were still living together, still friends, but very much roommates. We were separate bedrooms, separate floors of the house. So, we were not together. We weren't physically intimate at all, but we were still together. We hadn't broken up and said, okay, we're done. You can see other people. I can see other people. So there was still a lot of lying going on. And Rob and I think we had this conversation just 2 days ago, and we're like, yeah, if we could do all that again, we would do it a
we
lot different.
Yeah, we would take the space uh, and get out of those relationships completely.
Yeah.
Because just like you alluded to, you were in that tornado. It didn't feel good. It didn't feel right. It wasn't you. You have to trust those feelings. If you're doing something or feeling something or thinking something that is hurting you, you got to pay attention to that, because the hurt just doesn't go away. It will live on in your memory, and you will continue to scold yourself more and more and more if you go deeper and deeper and deeper. It's a real blow to your self-esteem. And
yeah,
I would highly recommend that people don't do that to themselves. It opens up a whole new realm of healing that you have to go back around and touch numerous times over again. And we have enough healing to do as twins without
yeah.
inflicting 3D healing on ourselves too.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. And yeah, like I said, when the box was open, I even said, I was like, I'm not going back in that karmic cycle. I cleared that once. Like, I learned my lesson
Yeah.
from, and it also, the person, he's a good person. Not that the other people weren't good people, they were hurt people. But I just, nope, I learned my lesson the first time. There was no way I was going to do it again.
For
I had
you.
enough, I had enough karma to clear. But okay, so I know that, I mean, there's so many things that I can go every direction. I mean, this can be like, just can go on and on. For those who are in twin flame dynamic relationship, who one or both are in karmic partnerships, do each of you have any words of advice at all? Something to help the process?
Yes, in fact, it's awesome that you asked that, because I so want to do a video. Like, I don't know if you've watched any of the videos that I've just do on a whim by myself without Rob. And I so want to do this video of like, what do you do when your twin is now in a karmic relationship or married or has a child with someone else or moves away? And it's like, you know what my advice is? Just let them be, allow it. Because if you understand the gifts they're getting from that relationship, I know it's the ego that feels so hurt. Like, how can my twin be with somebody else? How come they don't know or remember or have conscious feelings for me like I do from them? How come they can be with somebody else? Don't they see that I'm their twin and I should be with them and they should be with me? And it's like, yes, on a soul level they know that, but they still have work to do with this other person, or maybe other people, depending on their situation. So it's like,
Right.
you can pull yourself out of the ego, which I know is not that easy sometimes.
It's very hard.
Yes. But if you can get out of the ego and see it from the bigger perspective and trust, like you said before, that word that you hated, trust the process. If you really can trust the process and know that they are getting so many gifts, so many blessings, so much healing, and so much learning with that other person that is helping them come back to you. I don't know how many videos Rob and I have said, if it weren't for our karmic partners, we wouldn't be together. They helped us grow enough to come back together.
You've got to let these processes work themselves through to completion. The twin flame journey for most people requires almost all the patience that they can possibly muster. It does. It goes on and on and on. But it's not until both people, both halves of the soul, have learned enough to be able to come back together and then learn together. It is not until that point that it's healthy to come back together. If there's too much karmic energy left over, you could get back into that start, stop, runner, chaser, chase, run, break apart, back together relationship. So it's best to wait until there's a ton of signs that both of you are now ready to proceed into a relationship together. The patience is worth it. And if one person is ready and the other one needs another 5 years, guess what's going to happen? Another 5 years.
Which is, and I will share with you, for me, and I'm sure that there's a lot of people who feel that based on what you just said. That, and I know it's an ego, that fear that time is running out. Time is running out. You know, I know that this bond is indestructible. It's eternal. It never ends. It never dies. And if it's not in this lifetime, it'll be in the next lifetime. But right now, this human physical body here is conscious. You know, that's a real fear, and it's something that I've actually had to battle a lot. Like, you know, time's running out. I'm going to be 50. You know, time's running out. Like, you know, all that time. And how would you answer or share what you've learned?
I was just going to be like, pick me.
Okay, we'll pick you first this time. I have my own blurb that I've never even come close to saying before, but go ahead.
I don't think I've said mine before either. But just to kind of go back a step, I don't know if you watched or are familiar with, I did a QHHT session with Marla. And actually, no, it wasn't even that. It was, the workshop we did with Marla. And she did a group progression with all of us. And I experienced being Andromedan, which I had never connected with before. And it's helped me understand that even when we're in physical bodies, if it's not a human body, but another body, we can live much longer than we think we can. And that is part of where we are going as we are ascending and evolving as humans, is that we don't have to die when we get to 80, 90, 100, or even 60, 70. So when you think time is running out, maybe it's not. Maybe part of our ascension is that we are going to live much longer than we've ever lived before. And maybe you can be 80 and reconnect with your twin. Not that I want to scare anybody, because somebody's like, oh my God, I'm not waiting till I'm 80.
I've actually said that twice. I'm like, please don't make me wait till I'm 80.
But you know, even if it is 80, that might just be the very beginning of your life, and you might live another 100, 200 years together. Right? Like, seriously, we don't know. I mean, we are changing physically so much as we evolve from what was the old template? Now we're crystalline. What was the old? I can't even remember right now.
I don't remember, but I know we're crystalline.
Funny that it's gone for both of us, because we're now already adopting our crystalline self. And as we become more of that, we are holding more light, which means we don't have to die to re-embody ourselves. We can stay here and be evolved and enlightened and whole and continue living. So
I like that. That feels a lot better than some of the stuff being nightmares. So I appreciate that, because it's an honest, like I said, it's an honest fear of mine that I've had, and it's something that I've had to work through over and over and over again.
And it's a big fear. We hear a lot of, I mean, I've had people contact us that are in their 60s, their 70s even. I've had a lady message us and say, I'm in my 70s and like, we got to get going or otherwise this isn't going to happen. And it's like, I hear you, but I also know that our bodies are changing. Your 70s might be your young years, right? Like you might have, I mean, again, going back to being Andromedan, they live 70,000 or 7,000 years sometimes.
Wow.
So we might be just barely little babies in this earth now. God knows how long we're going to live.
Right, right.
Well, from a more 3D point of view, I'm going to come at it from my side. I was fascinated by what you were saying, by the way. At about year 2 after we got together, after we'd had 2 years together, I had this thought that if I was going to, let's say, die on my 80th birthday, and that we got together on my 78th birthday, and I only had the first 2 years that we've existed together to be together, I would wait that long. It would be worth the wait.
Wow.
You're going to make me cry.
Yes, just because I've been fortunate enough to have this reconnection happen in my 50s, and we might have 20 or 30 years to go. That's okay. We talk about that too. I could say that I've been fortunate, but I would wait a long, long time, even close to the very end of my life, to have what we've had. So again, patience. That's probably my biggest mantra word in this whole journey is patience. It is worth the wait. But in the meanwhile, don't be afraid to keep growing. Don't stagnate. That's another word too. That's my fear word. Don't stagnate while you're waiting. Keep growing, keep living, keep having fun, because you're still got to do your own growth too. It'd be horrible to stop dead and let's say your slightly de-evolved twin half all of a sudden evolves beyond you because you've stopped. So keep growing. You will find your own balances eventually.
Thank you so much. I think that's like a perfect ending.
Aww.
Thank you so much for doing this. I'm so grateful and so appreciative. You're always so helpful, and I hope that those who watch and view, that they've learned something as much as I have.
Well, and I hope people take away that, what we've said so many times, the karmic partner is such a blessing. If you can, again, remove the ego part and see things from the bigger picture and just know that they are doing such a service, even if you don't see it. I had no clue how much Rob had grown in all the years we were apart, but he is the person he is now because of the person he was with for 12 years. She taught him so much. She helped him grow so much. And of course, vice versa. It's never one-sided. But she was such a gift to us. And every karmic partner, I believe, is a gift to the twin flame union. They play a huge part.
Well, I've definitely going to do a lot of thinking, because there's certain things that you shared that I haven't thought of before, which is very helpful in my own journey. And it was just very helpful, just calming my fears and all that kind of stuff too. So that's a gift all by itself. So thank you again.
Oh, you're so welcome.
You're very welcome.
And I hope I could do this again with the two of you.
Yeah, this was fun. We love just chatting with people and helping where we can. So we'd love to.
Yes, so do I.
Thank you for sharing your information as well. This was a great conversation between the three of us.
That's how I wanted it. I wanted it to be a conversation.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Oh, okay.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we will say good night, or if it's good morning to somebody out there.
Yeah.
Good morning, good afternoon.
That's right. Whatever it is.
And Merry, happy winter solstice, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whoever.
All of it.
Yes.
Okay.
Beautiful. Well, thanks for connecting with us. So enjoyed this.
Okay.
Oh, me too. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.